How we doing there, boys and girls? Manthieus here, and welcome back to the next in our series covering the professions on the Dragonflight Alpha. Today we're going to take a little bit of a look at engineering. Engineering was the second of two new professions we had to play with this week, and engineers will be quite happy with this, I reckon. For anybody that's used engineering in the past, you'll know it's usually full of funky little toys and gadgets and all sorts of things that are usually just quite fun to play with. I generally tend to think that whoever designs the engineering profession, if they took even 20% of the creativity that they put into this and spread it out onto some of the other professions, the game would be in an amazing place profession-wise. Let's take a little bit of a look at what we have to play with for engineers in Dragonflight. The usual process is basically the same. They're not deviating too far from the normal. You're going to start off by taking some regular ore, turning it into bolts of that said ore. This then gets converted up in multiple different stages. You then make it into springs. You take some of the springs and some of the bolts, and you can make gears. There's a small interesting discovery system built into gears. It's only designed to discover 4 patterns. It's designed to teach you some cogwheels. Some cogwheels are some optional reagents. They're going to basically work like missives. They're going to convert stats into either mastery, verse, haste, or crit. These 4 cogwheels are learned through making some of the greased up gear wheels. Interesting way of acquiring the recipes. I like to see more of that, Blizzard. Well done. This is all working up. You're building up the quality of the materials as you go. Eventually spending a little bit more ore, throwing in some greased up wheels and some shock wheels, and making the top quality arc-light capacitors. So in usual engineering form, you're taking basic materials and refining them more and more and more until you get all of the components that you need to put together your tinkering stuff and your toys and your fancy bits and pieces. We have some finishing reagents like what we've seen with many of the other professions so far. These are going to do a multitude of different things just to help you improve the quality of your crafts, or in some cases improve the crafting speed, or increase your chance of proccing multiple ones and the likes. The essence of Tear and the essence of Wisp we have seen in, I believe these are actually craftable by every single primary profession now. They do a very simple thing that when used they increase the crafting skill. Once again, everything is designed to help you make better quality stuff. If you've been keeping up with Dragonflight, you'll know that quality is a big thing. Quality is literally all over the place. If we take a quick look at the goggles, for example, there are 5 different quality levels. Unfortunately, I've skilled up far enough already to only be able to showcase the tier 5 quality ones, but there are, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 quality. The goggles is going to be your big ticket to skilling past, or skilling all the way up to 100. Most of the professions in Dragonflight, you can skill up to about halfway really quite quickly and easily, just buying some basic materials, crafting some basic bits and pieces. From 50 plus though, it tends to really slow down, and this is where the grind kicks in. The grind is going to kick in, and it's going to require you to be crafting some pretty specialist stuff to get these skill points. Now, because most of the bits and pieces you can see, anything with these little yellow or orange up arrows is indicative of you getting a skill point. They've slightly changed the UI this patch. You are mostly going to need to be crafting bind-on pickup stuff, once again, through the work order system primarily. Hopefully we'll get a bit of a deeper look into the work order system in the next week or two, so make sure you're subscribed and stick around for that one. But you're going to be held back from just zerging this all the way yourself personally because of a couple of bind-on pickup, probably quite limited commodity items. You're going to probably get these from the raids, get these from doing Mythic Plus. We don't quite know the source for these special epic bind-on pickup materials, but we have our suspicions that it's going to be the end game content. So your work orders will come in, you'll fulfill those work orders, and that will be your ticket to getting more skill points. Goggles, you'll see they have these blue punch cards on them. There's 4 sets of 4 sets of goggles, 1 for each armor type, like normal. They have these blue punch cards. These blue punch cards allow you to throw in a few extra little bits and pieces. These Tinkers are your blue punch cards, that they all do slightly different things. Now, through leveling it up, I've only actually been able to naturally, through the spec trees and through the profession trainers, learn 1 or 2 of these. But as you can see, the grey ones are ones I'm yet to actually learn, and there is a whole bunch of them available to us. The likelihood is that these will come from doing something out in the world. They seem to be putting a lot more focus on you actually needing to go out and play your character a touch to actually acquire all the patterns, which is nice to see. A little bit more gameplay being built into the professions. But these Tinkers, these create these blue punch cards, and they do a variety of different things, such as putting down a small little turret to defend the area. We have, what do we have here? A flamethrower that's going to deal a bunch of damage. We have cooldown effect is reduced for certain abilities. The nice little additional bonuses that you can add into your goggles. Now, of course, just like goggles usually are, these are not only bind on pickup, but these also do require you to be an engineer to use as well. So this is where leveling up engineering might end up being quite tough, because engineers are looking to need other engineers to make the thing. I don't know, it feels a bit of a circle jerk almost. Engineers are going to need to help out other engineers for them all to level up and complete work orders, it feels, but we'll see how that plays out. Interestingly, one additional thing is that engineers are now not just going to be making goggles, very placeholder, these don't even have names yet, but they're going to be making bracers or wrists for each of the different armor slots as well, which also are going to have these punch card abilities, so you can customize these a little bit more so as well, giving the engineers a little bit more armor to be crafting. And like normal, they will be crafting some guns as well for your hunters primarily out there. There's going to be a couple of guns, couple of endgame guns starting at 393. If you can bump the quality of these, I think they end up all the way at 403. I believe if you can unlock them and craft them at tier 5 quality. Pretty much the usual stuff on these. There's not a huge amount of stuff out of the ordinary with engineering. It's all kind of the stuff you'd expect. A couple of scopes for your hunters as well to attach onto those guns. Bunch of different bombs, explosive stuff. There's a whole spec tree. We'll talk about specs in a minute. There's a whole spec tree devoted to making more of the explosives and making them more effective. And then you got the fun stuff, all the devices. I did a little video today talking about a couple of these. These are quite fun. The environmental emulator is a cool one. This allows you to change the weather effects around you, turn it to a sunny day, turn it into snowstorm, turn it into a bunch of things. I did a little video on this, one of the last videos on the channel. Make sure you check that out if you want to see what these little toys do more so. But these are quite fun, a whole bunch of different stuff. Of course, your wormhole generator is back. Now, apparently, by the looks of things, the wormhole generator is nowhere near as powerful as what it is in Shadowlands currently. It does have a 4-hour cooldown. Now, if it continues to maintain a 4-hour cooldown, it's not going to be quite as mandatory a toy for people to use. As you can see, it does still require you to be an engineer to use it. So we don't see quite as much power in this, but of course we hope to be able to get around a little bit easier with dragon flying in Dragonflight anyway, so it may not be too much of a necessity if you're trying to get places quickly. And we have the jump cables. Jump cables is one of the big ticket items for engineers generally. This is one of the main reasons why many people consider engineering a mandatory profession, especially if you're doing Mythic Plus. Getting that battle res. There is the reusable jumper cables, which give you 60% health and 20% mana back, and you can even spec into this. If you dive deeper into specializing in using these jumper cables, you can limit the amount of times they fail. There's a few bonuses to being a smart engineer with these, and engineers now have something that they can sell. There's a very basic version of the jumper cables Now, they're only going to restore 35% health and 10% mana, but they are still castable in combat. But they do have the chance to fail on you, so this is a little bit more risky. The safe option, especially if you're pushing keys, is probably to still have somebody in the group responsible for being an engineer and using the jump cables if absolutely necessary. Some portable alchemy and engineering tables. These are the first ones of these we've seen. We were talking about this a little bit on stream today, that they seem to have brushed under the rug a little bit, this sort of mindset of only being able to craft things in certain areas. Now, that may still become true, that still may become a thing. It got quite a bit of negative press when Blizzard first announced that you might have to be standing at very specific crafting tables to make things, but at least alchemists should be able to put down a portable alchemy table to make some potions or whatever when needed, and engineers appear to have the same if you want to put down a workbench to do some engineering on your travels. Nice little flavorful things to play with there. And of course, we've gone through this for every profession so far, the profession equipment. Up the top here, you have 3 different slots for each profession, which you can put some gear into. And this profession gear will, in most cases, bump up some of the crafting specific stats. Your inspiration, your resourcefulness, your crafting speed, and your multi-craft can be boosted by the use of crafting some profession equipment. Whole bunch of it is placeholder still. There's lots of things that are still very placeholder on the alpha for engineering. So this is definitely going to be a profession we need to take a deeper dive into in the future. And then there's a couple of a little duck toy. In fact, not so much a duck toy, a self-destructing duck that does a bunch of damage. And then there is a Quack E, which is a little companion for you to craft and potentially fill some work orders for. So let's jump into the specs then. Now we know roughly what we're going to be crafting as an engineer. How is the spec trees looking? Well, to me, the spec trees seem to have very, very deliberate paths for certain types of players. You get optimized efficiency for free. Once you hit 25 skill points, you can unlock optimized efficiency is unlocked for you automatically, and you'll be able to choose one other after 25 skill points. You'll need to get to 50 skill points to open a 3rd tree. And then if you want to open all 4 of them, you are going to need to get yourself all the way to skill 100 in engineering. So like what I've sort of stated before with some of the other professions, it's less a case of which spec do you want to choose and more a case of which one are you happy to not have for a while. We don't suspect that it's going to be too quick or easy to get to skill 100. You're going to need to fill a lot of work orders and do a lot of daily quests to get this up to 100. So you'll have access to 3 of the spec trees pretty quickly. The 4th one you're going to have to be a bit patient with. So you kind of got to decide which one you can do without for the longest time. Optimized efficiency is pretty self-explanatory. It's all about just making things more efficient, costing you less materials to craft, giving you the opportunity to multi-craft. It focuses quite heavily on these initial parts that you're going to be making, presumably in bulk at some point, making those more efficiently. There is an interesting one called the Scrapper. Some of you may get PTSD when I mention the word Scrapper if you were playing with professions in BFA much at all. But the Scrapper is back for engineers. It allows you to rummage through scrap and gives you the chance to find undamaged parts that can be used in your creation. Now, it should be noted that at the moment this is not yet implemented, so I can't test this on the alpha, but be sure to stick around and stay tuned, because when it does get implemented, I'll be sure to let you know just how much scrap you get, just what you get from scrapping, and whether it's worthwhile paying much attention to. Yeah, scrap yield increased slightly. Whenever you use your devices or throw bombs, you have a chance of recovering pieces of scrap that you can rummage through and find some valuable components. So this might become a little bit sort of a bit like recycling. A little bit of recycling with the engineers is quite cool. Nice little additional bonus there. You can see here there is actually a rummage through scrap thing that you can use. Unfortunately, at the moment, there's no way to get these, so we can't test it to find out really kind of what it does. But it's a thing. Be aware of it being a thing. A little bit of recycling can be done. At the moment, some of these feel very broken. I'm going to have to give some feedback to Blizzard. Some of the skill gains from some of these are super duper mega overpowered, I feel, at the moment. So expect some balancing before this all goes live. But let's move on. Explosives, pretty self-explanatory. If you're a PvPer, you're likely to spec into this tree quite quickly. This is all of your different bombs and giving you extra ability to craft them more efficiently. Not only crafting them more efficiently, but crafting them faster. And especially if you are using the bombs on a regular basis for PvP purposes, giving you sort of less chances for them to go boom in your own face, removing some of the risk of using them the more points you spend in this. This is true for most of this. Function over form is going to be a big one. It is in this direction if you spec into this utility. Was it this utility one? Which one was it? There was one of these that was very, very definite that everybody wanted. I cannot remember which one it was. One of these actually teaches you, true to form, now I'm recording a video, I can't exactly find out where it is, but one of these is your jumper cables. One of these, when you spec into it, teaches you your jumper cables, which is going to be quite valuable to some people. And the mechanical mine spec tree, when you first spec into this is where you get your wormhole generator. So two of the big reasons why people pick engineering are you kind of have to spec into both of these if you want both your jumper cables and you want your wormhole. Which is why, for me, I've decided that, at least for testing anyway, I'll give explosives a pass just for now. But of course, if you're more into PvP over Mythic Plus, these feel very orientated towards Mythic Plussers who take engineering almost every time. If you're more into the PvP side of things, you might pick explosives and choose which one of these you're happy to wait on. The spec trees for engineering feel very basic. There's not a huge amount to these, to be honest, and I do think that they might work on these a little bit more so. They're all, you know, nothing more than one set of branches out from a main node. We've seen a lot more thought going into some of the other spec trees for other professions, but, you know, it's still early days. This end one, though, Mechanical Mind, is one that I certainly will be speccing into quite quickly because of this novelties. It's this novelties node here which gives you all of those funky toys that we were talking about earlier. All of the weather-changing toys, there's a Zap Throttle Soul Inhaler, which it feels very much like anybody that played TBC back in the days, for extracting primals off mobs when you kill them. All of your toys, all of your devices tend to come from this novelties one, so this is one that could be quite interesting for players to have a little bit of a look at if they pick up engineering. But there we go, boys and girls. I'll leave it there for this video. That's the sort of first overview of engineering. It feels very, very early stages, I will say. There's still lots of things that have got lots of placeholder buttons and icons and things, so expect quite a bunch of this to change. This is why I've not gone into too much detail about the materials that go into making all of this, because it does still feel very early. But there's a couple of cool things. There's definitely a couple of cool things to pay attention to, keep your eyes on. But they're sticking relatively true to the regular sort of expectations that people will have with engineering. So then, boys and girls, if you liked the video, remember to give the video a like. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm and promotes my videos out to more people. So I'd appreciate you hitting the like. Let me know what your thoughts are on the professions. Any thoughts that you put down in the comment section below. Obviously, I do read through them. I do go through them, but it also helps me when providing feedback back to Blizzard to try and hopefully make these professions as good as possible. And of course, my last little shameless promo, hit that sub button if you haven't already. The alpha is only in the early stages, but hopefully we'll get into beta, and of course as we move into Dragonflight, I will continue to focus on professions and the economy side of the game. So thank you very much, boys and girls. That's it for today. Have a good one. I'll catch you all next time. Peace.